be putting on this headset again.
All right, time to check the email. Let's see. Here's one from the people in San Fran. This should be a good one. They're usually pretty funny. Let's see what it is. Ew, that is disgusting. Shout out to CD Deuce, a.k.a. CJ Gardner-Johnson. Thanks for that one, San Fran. Let's see. Here's one from the Miami office. And there's a tower with the Ravens on it. And there's another tower with the Lions on it. Yeah, that's really funny. It reminds me of that tragedy. But, yeah, this just in. The Lions, in fact, did not win again, falling 34-31 in San Francisco to the 49ers in a game that took multiple acts of God to complete the 49ers' 17-point second-half comeback. And, I mean, as soon as we saw that IU catch off of Vildor's face mask, we all knew it was over. Just every single break going for the 49ers on that one. And, yeah, that's classic Vildor. I mean, he's always in position to make a play, but for whatever reason, it's just, a razor-thin error of margin and margin of error, and it just always ends up going the other way, even though he's right there to make the play. But, what can you do? He kind of came on off of waivers, basically, when we kind of ran out of cornerback twos, and our cornerback one not doing so well to the end of the season either. Yeah, in the words of Paul Simon, why don't we stop fooling ourselves? The game is over. And yeah, while the game is over, it was a fun ride. Time it was, and what a time it was. In the words of Hunter S. Thompson, buy the ticket, take the ride. They definitely took us on a ride there. I can't say it wasn't a lot of fun. Completely exceeding expectations is what this team did. I mean, just to put it all in perspective, we wanted them to win the Division One, and at the bare minimum, win a playoff game, and they did all that and then some. They won the division, I guess you could say kind of handily. I mean, they won it with a couple weeks ago, right? And then they won the playoff game. It was a really tight one. Some issues popping up, of course, but they did end up winning it in pretty close fashion. They weren't able to score in the second half as much in that game, which was an issue that came back in this one, as it took them all of, 29 minutes in the second half to end up scoring that last touchdown. I thought that it wouldn't be as much of a problem scoring in the second half in this one, as they were able to figure it out in the previous game. But all that went out the window because at halftime the Lions were winning 24-7 in San Francisco in the NFC Championship game. And we can just take a second to appreciate that, right? I mean, from 6:30 to 8 o'clock, it was the most fun that any of us Lions fans had in a long time, right? But then, it all kind of came crumbling down. Of course, a lot of criticism given to Dan Campbell for not kicking those field goals. That one to go up 27-10. Moody, for the 49ers, Michigan's best kicker, as some people said last year, he missed from about that same distance on that same side of the field. So I know that we're all about, the field goal and why didn't we kick it, but the field goals aren't a given. If we would have kicked it and he would have missed it, they would have gotten the ball 7 yards further down the field because they take it from the spot where they kicked it from. And people would be, arguing that they should have just gone for it in that situation. And, I mean, we wouldn't even be having this discussion if the receivers had caught the ball. In those key moments, the receivers just, couldn't hang on to it. They just dropped the ball. And that's just an instance of the moment being too big. I mean, all the players knew what this game meant and everything. They knew what they were playing for. And, when the pressure was on, it was too much for them. They pulled up that graphic earlier in the game where it was like 7 games worth of championship experience for the Lions. And some 53-73 for Niners anyway, 10 times as much, So, of course, some players had been there before, like Goff and I guess Reynolds, which is really ironic since Reynolds is the one who was dropping the ball all the time in that crunch time. But, overall the team is pretty experienced. I mean, look at the rookies. Jahmyr Gibbs with that fumble that helped seal the game, really. That's a rookie right there. Laporta, who had a key drop in a certain situation, he's a rookie too. So we had a lot of young guys. Can't really blame them too much. I mean, they just hadn't been there before. But the fact that we have all these young players who are really good, who are only going to get better, and are only going to use this as fuel for the future, it's a good sign for the future. And I know that Dan Campbell said to his guys, there's no guarantee that we'll get here again. This may have been our only shot. A lot of people are taking that like right at face value, and I don't really agree with taking it at face value. I don't accept this being the one and only chance. I mean, sure, it is possible that this is the only chance that they'll have at a situation like this, but I'll tell you why I refuse to believe that. Like I said before, we have this core of rookies who have only just started and they're already really good, and they didn't have a whole lot of experience. I mean, this season was their only experience really, and to go and lose in such heartbreaking fashion in this championship game, they're only going to want it even more after that. Having that taste of success and being right at the precipice, it's only going to fuel them more. And plus, this team isn't even at its peak of where it could be. This team, frankly, kind of overachieved. This is kind of the moderate stage of the rebuild where we had our first year of struggle winning 3 games, and then we turned it around at the back end of last season, just barely missed the playoffs. Then this season is our first season in the playoffs and, our season to make a little noise. And we won 2 playoff games when the goal was only to win 1, and when we had won 0 in the past 30 years or so. So this season was a success, and they overachieved. And plus, this team, as we all know, had its weaknesses. It had, this isn't its final form. The team's only going to get better as we add more and more players. And the young core gets more experience and, knows how to be a professional in those situations and not, kind of falter like they did. It's only going to get better from here, and this was a good start. They've said it all season that this is only the beginning, so I have a lot of confidence that they'll be back again in the years to come. And plus, we're looking at another 49ers-Chiefs Super Bowl. That's the same Super Bowl matchup from, 3 or 4 years ago? A lot of these same teams are always up there competing when they're healthy. The Chiefs, the Bills, the 49ers. Teams like that can stick around when they have young cores and good coaching staffs. And that's exactly what the Lions have. They have a good core. They have a good coaching staff. They're all only going to get better. We'll see if Ben Johnson ends up leaving. We'll see if Tanner Engstrand will stick around and not get poached by either Ben Johnson or another team looking for an OC, because I'm pretty sure that's like the heir apparent to Ben Johnson. But either way, I think the offense will be fine. Dan Campbell was able to call the plays and kind of turn it around in the first season. So if it really came down to that, he could do that and do pretty well at it. Plus, it's not like all of that Ben Johnson did, goes away just because he leaves. They'll still be able to retain some of the concepts and all that stuff. So I'm not worried at all. This obviously sucks to get up in this situation and lose like that, especially when you were up by so much. And with the dream being right there, but this isn't the end of the world. This is only the beginning, like they've said before. So yeah, giving up 27 points unanswered in the second half, obviously not what you want to do. 24-10, could have gone up 27-10, but there's something that I have right there. The Lions over the course of the season were converting on 4th and 3 or shorter at a 75% clip, and Badgley only hits 48% of his field goals from 48 yards plus. So, if they just catch the ball in that situation, we're not gonna be talking about this like we are now. Instead of talking about going up 27-10, we'd be talking about going up 31-10, and really sealing the deal. And plus, even at the end of the first half, we went for that field goal to make it 24-7. And I would have been really tempted if I was the coaching staff to go for the kill shot right there, go up 28-7. Then you could, have the potential to be going up 35-10 in the third quarter and being done with it. And then that Ayuk play happened. Just fluke. Complete fluke. Complete variance. That only happens once in a lifetime. You would hope anyway. Some sort of immaculate reception like that. Just the football gods, making a play for San Francisco. It's one of those kooky things. And then, of course, the Lions come back, important possession, and what do we run? A little halfback dive with Gibbs, and the guy fumbles. He's a rookie. That was probably the biggest carry of his whole life, and he's had some issues fumbling a little bit previously. So yeah, maybe you give the ball to Montgomery there. Um, so yeah, and then even with the fumble, that's the craziest part. Even with the fumble to make it 24-24, the Lions were still not out of the game. It's just that the margin of error was really low. But yeah, they just couldn't make the plays when they had to. All the drops started happening, and yeah, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. The moment just got a little bit too big for them. And then, of course, Jameson Williams almost dropped that one pass himself, which would have landed right in the defender's hands. But props to him, he wrestled it out of the defender's hands and came down with it. A pretty good JMO game. This might have been the best game of his career, honestly. So that's a little bright spot for you. A little 40-yard touchdown run, and then that little garbage time passing, receiving touchdown to add to his little thing there. I mean, he probably had like 100 all-purpose yards. So good spot for JMO. If he could turn into a really nice wide receiver too, this offense will have everything that it needs. The other thing on offense that I would look for in this offseason is just bolstering the offensive line because, we got some aging guys there. So we can use some support there. Maybe tight end too. We had a lot of tight ends go down this season. But most of everything should be on defense, the secondary. Definitely need to bring in another corner or two. Maybe do it kind of like they did this past season where you bring in one corner from free agency and then you draft another one. I still think that Cam Sutton is fine. I'm not sure about his contract details, but I'm sure he's probably here for at least one more season. I mean, he played well at the first part of the season. Yeah, but then the last 6 weeks or so, he was kind of, going down a little bit. But he didn't really have a lot of help, at the outside corner position anyway. We got Branch and some good slot guys and everything. We'll see if they try and bring back C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He got hurt this season, which to be fair, he is injury prone, so that's why they only gave him the 1-year contract anyway. But a lot of people don't really like him, and the way he yaps a lot, so maybe he won't be here. But I don't know. He's a good fire guy, I guess, to kind of inspire everybody else. So I don't know. We'll see about that. But yeah, an off-season upgrade the secondary, definitely get some defensive line depth, and our rookies and our young guys keep going, and we'll be all right. We'll be back in this position. I've said it over the course of the past year and a half. I'll say it again. This team's going to contend for a long time with the guys that we have in place and the coaching staff and everything. So I'm not too worried about it. It was a fun ride. Didn't expect to even get this far. And, of course it sucks to be right there at the edge of the dream for the Super Bowl. But, this team outplayed its expectations, certainly. This team, nobody expected them to even have a chance at sniffing a Super Bowl. But props to them, they believed in themselves, and they went out and they almost played themselves right into a Super Bowl. But this team's only got to get better. We'll get there eventually. I got nothing but faith. This is just like I've talked about some of the losses previously over the course of this season. They're learning experiences. They're only going to make you want it even more. So, these guys will have this in the back of their minds. They'll know that they've been there before. And then the next time that they get there, they'll know exactly what they have to do to put them away. That killer mentality. When you just look at Sewell, go and look at the player interviews that they did in the locker room after the game. look at that look in Sewell's eyes. That guy is dead set on getting back to this position and making things right. I'd be scared. If they thought that he had a good year this season, I'd be scared to face him next season. A lot of they already had a lot of fire in their hearts from the coaching staff and everything these young players did. So imagine the kind of fire that's building in them right now they're going to go into their off-season workouts even harder. They're going to go into training camp even harder. And, this Lions team is going to be one to fear. Hell hath no fury, like team scorned. We'll insert that right there. Thanks, Bill. Shout out to Shakespeare. Love Shakespeare. So, we're going to keep it going. We're going to see where the journey ends up taking us in the end. What a long, strange trip it's been. And, excited to see what's going on in the future. Don't get too down after this one. It was a pretty emotional night, but no reason to believe that we won't get here again. So, until next time.